Blessings and welcome to the Path to Freedom podcast, a weekly and practical podcast with the intention to assist us as we walk along the paths of freedom and awakening, so that we, that is you and me, may set ourselves free to be in ever-expanding love and joy and peace and harmony and wholeness and abundance, so that we may set ourselves free to transform our lives over and over and over again, so that we may set ourselves free to forever allow for greater and grander expressions of who and what we are to emerge. All of this regardless of external conditions and circumstances, and with ever-expanding ease and grace. My name is Daniel Roquéo, and I'm your host. Blessings and welcome to the Path to Freedom podcast. This, if I may say so, this pretty amazing podcast about waking up to who and what we are. This amazing podcast about us allowing for ever greater and grander expressions of who and what we are, of that who and what to emerge, of us allowing forever more love and peace and joy and harmony and abundance and wholeness to flow into our lives, to emerge from within us, of us allowing for the ease and grace with which God is to begin to take over our lives, where we get to become aware of the small and the limited, where we get to embrace and allow that, where we get to release and let go of that, so that the new, the greater, the grander may emerge. On and on and on and on. So welcome here into this space. My name is Daniel Roquéo, and I'm always grateful. I'm always grateful that you are here. I'm not always grateful, but I'm always grateful that I get to have this podcast, that I get to do this, that this is what my life is about, and that I get to be joined by you, whoever you are and whenever you are. This is a joint venture, so I'm grateful for your participation. I'm grateful for your contribution to this space, to this field that this podcast is creating. The topic for today, it is a quote from a beautiful being called Reverend Deborah Johnson. The quote is, let me see if I can remember it. God does not call the prepared, but God prepares the called. God does not call the prepared, but God prepares the called. And this is very, very relevant to my life, and a very hot topic in my life right now. This is all about saying yes to that inner nudge, to saying yes to the dreams and the visions and the intentions that we catch, that allow us to step into that, allowing for ever greater and grander expressions of who and what we are. So these divine seeds that are planted within us, they are the catalyst, they are the engine behind the growth, behind the unfoldment, behind the expansion, or underneath, or surrounding. So this is what this, and I just entered a new phase just a few days ago, and oh, if you hear some yelling and shouting in the background, it's not any one of us being abused or anything like that. It's just my son playing Fortnite, and he's having such a blast with his friends. So that is it. And especially when we move into the meditation, you might very well hear him squeaking because that's what he's doing. He's squeaking. It's all beautiful. Speaking of which, not squeaking, but meditation. We always want to begin in that stillness. We always want to find our way back to the nowness in this moment, to center ourselves, to anchor ourselves, to allow for the peace that is always here, that is who and what we are, to well up from within us, for the love, for the joy, for the harmony, for the wholeness to well up from within us. And so in this moment, I invite us all to make ourselves comfortable as the meditation music begins to play. I invite us to, and that was my son again. I invite us to close our eyes, to take a deep breath, exhaling, allowing every muscle to relax, to release tension, to let go of tension. And I invite us to put a smile on our faces, which is simply telling the body that all is well, that it can relax, that it can begin to produce these beautiful tonic and good for the body chemicals. And I invite us to, while smiling, while having our eyes closed, while being comfortable, I invite us to gently tap between our eyebrows to activate that first eye, that spiritual eye. And while we tap, I invite us to lean into the intention for which we're here. We can have all these intentions, but ultimately it ultimately comes down to us wanting to wake up to who and what we are as spiritual beings, as unique, perfect, whole, and complete expressions, emanations of the One, of God. So that's where we're here, to wake up. So as we have tapped that into our system, we can release the tapping, and I invite us to turn our attention toward the breath. We can place our hands in our lap, palms facing upward, and perhaps having our thumbs and middle fingers touch as a sign of receptivity. And as we turn our attention toward the breath, we are invited to recognize and to realize that the body is fully capable of doing the breathing by itself. As a part of our expanding surrender, we can release any effort to make the breathing happen. An habitual way or tendency to want to breathe for the body. We can simply observe it. We can also become aware that each breath has 4 stages to it. That there's the in breath, the out breath, the space between in and out breath, and the space between out and in breath. And we want to be aware of that last stage, the space between out and in breath, as that is oftentimes where our attention drifts away from the breath. So we want to be mindful of that, and we want to have our attention stay on the breath, even as we move through that space of equilibrium, that space of non-movement, where the mind sometimes thinks that the breath is over. We want to be mindful. We want to keep our spiritual presence muscles strong and flexed, even through that space. And as we, in this moment, take on the feeling tone that all is well, let's give the peace that follows permission to move us deep, deep, deep into the stillness and into the silence. attention drifts away from the breath, we are all invited to gently and lovingly turn it back to the breath and begin again. And back to the breath and begin again. Let's come back to the breath and begin again. Let's come back to the breath and begin again. As I move us into an opening prayer, I invite us all to remain with our eyes closed, our minds open, our hearts open, maybe that smile on our faces, so that we may be receptive and available for the vibration that flows through this prayer to move us into an even more expanded consciousness and to raise our vibration. So in this moment, how grateful I am that I get to be a humble servant, an instrument of Spirit, of God. How grateful I am that I get to be a greater teacher and healer than I've ever imagined, that this is what my life is about. How grateful I am that I get to live my life having it be about being of service, serving the world, serving light, serving love, serving the planet, serving God. How profoundly grateful I am for everything and anyone, which actually is everyone, that has contributed to me being here at this point. For all the gifts, all the blessings, all the challenges, which are nothing but gifts and challenges, gifts and blessings that have flown into my life, that have come into my experience, allowed me to go ever deeper and wider and higher, allowing me to become aware of the small and the limited thought patterns and beliefs and perceptions and opinions and judgments and thoughts as to what should and should not be that I have been holding on to, so that I could release and let them go, allowing for something new, something greater, something grander to emerge. I'm so grateful to be on this path. I'm so grateful for the loving grace of Spirit. That is eternally sourcing and fueling and funding me in such a beautiful, magnificent way. Recognizing that God is all that there is, that God is this loving presence, that God is the one mind, that God is the one power, the one consciousness, the one life, that God is the one intelligence, that God is the one love, the one peace, the one abundance. But there's nothing outside of Spirit. There's not God and something else. There's no opposites in God. There's no dualities in God. It is only God being itself, doing itself, expressing itself in us and through all creation. Being that God is the creator and the creation. So God is not a man in the sky. It is not metamorphic or whatever the word is. I always mix it up. My tongue can't ever quite get that word right. But God is not that. God is not made in the human image and likeness. God is formless. God is boundless. God is limitless. God is infinite. God is eternal. All love, all peace, all joy, all harmony, all abundance, all. Being omniscient, knowing all, seeing all, being benevolent, always for itself, always for its own expanded expression or its own expanded revelation. Not ever, not for an instant, not for a moment, can God be against itself. Can God compromise itself? Can God contradict itself or diminish itself? But God is changeless. God is absolute in its goodness, in all that God is. So God is always for itself, and it is always expressing itself perfectly. Divine and perfect action happening always, divine and perfect timing happening always, regardless of whether we can see it or not, feel it or not, be aware of it or not. This is still so. So here I am and here we are, seemingly separate, but in truth, we are one with the one. We're one with the whole. We're one with God. We're one with the one power. We're God, one with the one mind. We are God, Spirit, the universe, the divine matrix, energy, whatever we want to call it. We are it, expressing itself in us and through us, revealing itself in us and through us. There is no separation in God. There is only absolute oneness, absolute unity. So we are all in absolute oneness. We're all absolutely unified with the one. And therefore, all is well. Right where we are. Regardless of our experiences, which may not always be one of knowing that all is well. But regardless of our experiences, not denying our experiences, but regardless of them, all is well. Something wonderful is happening. Everything is working for the highest good. Now, always, forever. And this is so simply because God is the only thing that is happening here, and God is the only thing that is here. And as God is good, it must mean that all is good. So we're blessed. We're blessings to the planet, we're blessings to the world, and we are blessed. We are in the field of grace, which simply means that we do not ever need to deserve anything. We do not ever need to make ourselves worthy. to stand in God's favor. But we're all blessed, just like everything in nature is blessed. A rose doesn't need to deserve to be a rose to be sourced food funded. A turtle doesn't need to make itself worthy or prove its own worth to be sourced food funded. A bird does not ever need to be anything but a bird. An oak tree or a birch tree or whatever kind of tree, whatever kind of plant, nature just is like that lily on the field, spinning not, toiling not, struggling not, efforting not, and yet so beautifully, abundantly provided for. This is so for all of us, as God is the only one of us here. So we are blessed. So I'm blessing us all in this knowing. I'm blessing this episode, I'm blessing this recording, I'm blessing the instruments and the technology, every single one tuning in to hear this, whenever and wherever you are. We're all equally blessed. For this and so much more, I give thanks, knowing that it is already done in the infinite mind, that the highest possibility already exists for each and every single one of us, for this episode, for this podcast. And so releasing the word, I surrender to this doneness. I allow this isness to be, to demonstrate and manifest itself here in this dimension, as it is doing now, in this very moment, as it is doing now with ease and grace, which is the way God rules. So I simply say, so be it, so shall it be, so it is. And so we are, each and every single one of us, knowing that there's only the one of us. Amen, Amin, Ashe, Aho, Hotep, Shalom, Salam. So, God doesn't call the prepared, but God prepares the called. As I have shared over these last number of weeks, there's been a lot of beautiful things happening. From my perspective, tremendous transformation has happened as I probably at the end of last year, beginning of December, late November perhaps, was kicked into a kind of like the caterpillar that needs to go into the chrysalis in order to move through the metamorphosis. That was the word. I wonder what the other word was I was trying to say. Metamorphic. Metamorphic. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But the butterfly or the caterpillar moves into the chrysalis, emerges as a butterfly, and I was kicked into the chrysalis. Beautifully, divinely designed, but it was not my choice. And so I moved through a couple of months of quite a turbulent space where a lot of things came up, a lot of small and limited thought patterns, point of views, some fears, some worries, some stories about who I am and what life is, some stories about not being enough and not having enough, lack and scarcity and separation. A lot of things came up. And a few weeks ago, I emerged out of that. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. It's like they say, I wouldn't call this a dark night of the soul, because I still had that conscious connection with the divine, but it was very turbulent. And as it is said about the dark night of the soul, that the darker we go, the darker it is, the more luminous it will become once we emerge. And That was absolutely what I experienced. This was one of the most turbulent spaces that I have moved through. And now that I'm emerging, I don't recognize myself. That there's a completely new being that is being born, that has been born now. And so I've been reveling in that, and I've been celebrating that, and it's been very joyous. Come Sunday, and I am not going to share the details of this because it's still very new, it's still very tender. But last Sunday, I was doing my morning routine. I was coming out of my meditation, and I was doing some prayer journaling. I have a prayer journal where I basically articulate and describe how I wish to show up and what I wish for my life to be about. So I was doing this this journaling, and two words, a phrase emerged. I witnessed myself write these words. I have never in my life taken, and these were sort of an emerging vision. For a long time, for a number of years, I have not worked a lot with visions. I have not worked a lot with images in that sense, but I've leaned more into intentions. Both give a sense of direction, so they're both beautiful. But I've been moving. So let me back up. So on the page, I witnessed myself articulate or give articulation to a vision for my life, an immensely expanded vision for my life. And that was all good. I loved it, and I was like, whoa, where did that come from? It completely resonated with every fiber of my being. It is in complete alignment with the intentions that I have for my life, every single one of them. So it's beautiful. I have no doubts as to where this comes from. But I was still amazed by it. I was sort of blown away by it. And so in that moment, everything made so much sense. Everything that has happened these last couple of years, it's like I've been given building blocks, and I have been building, tearing down old buildings, tearing down old structures, or allowing them to crumble and dissolve so that new structures could be built. And I began building, but I had no idea what it was that I was building. I knew that it was going to be beautiful. I knew that it was going to be great. I knew that something wonderful was happening, is happening, and that everything is working for the highest good. But I had no sense of what it was that I was building. And these two words, this phrase, captured all of that and put it into beautiful context. So it was like, wow, so this is what I'm building, this is what I'm creating, and this is what I have been creating for all these years. Every single experience has led me to this very moment, to be just here, to be just now. So now in that moment on Sunday, that was the perfect moment for this particular seed to be planted within me. In that moment, the conditions were right and ripe. Had it been 2 months ago, had it been 1 month ago, the conditions would not have been right and ripe for this seed. Like we talked about in the prayer, we didn't talk about it, what came through in the prayer, that God always moves with divine perfection, always right on time. God is never late, God is never early, always right on time. And in that particular moment, the conditions were just perfect for this seed to be planted within me. I did not come up with the seed. I did not figure it out. I just caught it. I just saw myself write it in the journal. So I was writing high, and the thing is, all right, so this vision that is emerging, or that I've now caught, I have absolutely, I don't even know what it means, right? So I know the words and I understand the words, but I don't know what it means. I don't know what this entails. I don't know what this is. I just know that this is what I'm in the process of midwifing. This is what I'm being charged with giving birth to right now. And in that I don't know what it is, I have absolutely no idea how. What I'm observing in this is that, I mean, I've caught visions and intentions, really, many times over these last few years. And there's always been that part in me that wanted to know how, that wanted to figure out. So there's always been that, oh, I don't know, can I do this? I don't know. Will I have the resources? Will I have the money? Will I have the time? Do I have the skills necessary? Do I have all of these things that the ego, tosses into our faces in terms of excuses and justifications as to why we should not go ahead and say yes to it. But the moment that I saw myself write these words, there was an immediate yes. It was like, absolutely, yes, I'll do it. I'm on board, God. I am your humble servant and instrument. So none of this is about me. I am but the mere vessel through which this expression will come through. I don't have to figure anything out. I don't have to know anything about it. I don't need to know even where to begin. But I'm saying yes to it. And that is the dimension of this. God doesn't call the prepared, but God prepares the called. So whenever we catch a vision, whenever we catch an idea or a dream or an inner desire to do something, to have something, to be something, to create something, in that moment that we catch it, we're already qualified for it. We wouldn't catch it if we were not qualified. God always moves with divine and perfect timing. So the moment we catch it is the perfect moment for us to begin moving in that direction. We don't ever need to wait for the conditions and circumstances to become quote unquote perfect. Things don't become, or actually, we don't start with the perfect conditions, but through our moving, we allow for the perfect conditions to come into fruition, to manifest themselves. So, whatever we think that we're lacking, whenever we catch a vision or a dream or whatever the case may be, whatever we think we're lacking, the mere fact that we have caught it means that we're lacking nothing. This is the time for us to get moving. This is the moment for us to get started. And as we do, as we are the instruments, the vessels, the conduits, the vehicles, whatever we want to choose to call it, for the emergence of this vision or this dream, it is not up to us to make anything happen, and we don't need to know anything about it. But as we say yes, which simply means, and I think we've just recently talked about this, but saying yes just simply means that we make ourselves prepared. We in our consciousness say to ourselves that from this moment on, I'm going to be moving in this direction. I'm going to allow Spirit to guide and lead my steps in this particular direction. So that is what saying yes means. It doesn't mean that I have to know why or when or how or any of that. It just means that I'm open. I'm making myself open and available to be guided, to be moved, to be led, saying that yes, this is what my life is going to be about from this point on, right? And in that, everything everything needed. So we need the yes, and we need to be willing. Yes, the sacred yes, and the willingness. These are the two most important things. And this has changed. I remember, as I'm hearing myself speak these words, I remember saying before that the two most important things was desire and willingness. And apparently that's been upgraded. That version has been upgraded to now involving the sacred yes and the willingness. Because we need to be willing. We need to realize that as we are the vehicle, as we are the vessel, as we are the conduit, if we want something to change in our lives, we need to change. If we want to experience a greater life, a grander life, we need to be that greater and grander conduit through which that life emerges. We need to be that. So we need to be willing to do the work of becoming aware of what is keeping us, of what is limiting us, of what is stopping us, of what is hindering us, of what is obscuring us or obstructing us. And it's all in our minds. It's not ever out there. It is not ever out there, but it's all in our minds. What are my beliefs about what is possible? What are my beliefs about what is logical, what is reasonable? What are my beliefs about who and what I am capable of, what I am able of, what I have, what qualities and talents and abilities do I have? Or we can reverse it. Which qualities and abilities and talents am I lacking? What resources am I lacking? So it's all in our minds. So God does not call the prepared, because no one is prepared. No one is fully prepared for anything greater than what we are. We are fully prepared to live this life, to have this iteration, to allow for this expression to be. But if we want to expand, we are not prepared for that. But this is the beauty of it all. As we say yes to that greater, grander expression, version, vision, dream, intention, goal, idea, desire, as we say yes to it, God, spirit, life, the universe, the sacred laws, whatever we call it, it will prepare us. It will make absolutely sure that all that we need to learn, all that we need to have, all that we need to be, we will learn, we will have, we will be when we need it. Spirit and spirit alone, with its infinite intelligence, with its omniscience, spirit and spirit alone knows what needs to happen, how it needs to happen, when it needs to happen for that dream that we have caught, for that vision that we have caught to come into fruition. We have no idea. We have no idea. So we can gather a lot of knowledge onto ourselves, and we can prepare best as we can, but as we have no idea what is needed, as we have no idea what it's going to take for us to move in that direction, for us to be that vessel, for us to be that vehicle, we don't really need to prepare for anything. I know that this is not what is taught in school. because in school we need to prepare for everything. But that's just the human mind, the human intellect talking. An apple seed does not need to prepare for anything, and it does not prepare for anything, and yet it unfolds into a beautiful apple tree. A rose seed is not preparing for anything, and yet it becomes a beautiful rose, given that the conditions are right and ripe. An acorn does not need to prepare for anything, is not preparing for anything, and yet that beautiful, magnificent oak tree emerges. A newborn baby is not preparing for anything, has not prepared for anything, and yet, if conditions are right and ripe, it evolves and grows into a loving human being. So nature never prepares, so why do we need to prepare? It's just a small and limited thought pattern. We will be prepared. We will, as we say yes, as we keep moving, all that we need to know, all that we need to become aware of, all that we need to release and let go of, it will come into our awareness. All the resources. So this came to me Sunday. Yesterday, I had an absolutely beautiful conversation with a very dear friend that was giving voice to things that were in alignment with this expanded vision. She knew nothing about it. Today, I was having another conversation with another dear friend that was also giving voice to future collaborations and future visions and possibilities where our working together were concerned. Both of these conversations happened after I had caught this expanded version. I'm talking to both of these beautiful beings on a regular basis. Every week, I'm having conversations with both of these. None of the conversations that we have had have revolved around a collaboration in the sense, in the way that we had the conversations today and yesterday. So when we need it, resources, people, places, things, events order themselves by divine law, order themselves to support us, to support the unfoldment of this vision. It is in God's highest, deepest, I was going to say expression, but it is God's deepest and highest desire that we say yes to all of our dreams, all of our visions and intentions that are in alignment with expanded life, so that God may be revealed in ever greater and grander ways. Obviously, as I said yes to this, the ego does not go quiet. So I said before that I said yes without knowing how, and that is true, I did. But after having said yes, upon having said yes, the ego began its thing, what it does, and it does it very, very well, in projecting these, who do you think you are? Who are you to believe that you can do this? And all of these, and you don't have enough of that, and you don't have enough of that, and this is impossible, it's not gonna happen, you have a family that you need to, blah 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 blah. It just kept rambling on and on and on and on and on with all these excuses, all these reasons as to why this is not possible. So we get to become aware of that, and I was quite amused by it. It lasted for about a day or two. I was quite amused by it. I knew it. I know that voice so well. I've heard it a gazillion times. So it was no news to me that it was gonna come up. and what it had to offer was no news to me either. But we get to become aware of that, and we get to find a way to lean into that divine intelligence that knows how to move the apple seed from being a seed planted in the ground or falling to the ground and actually shooting roots or growing roots and shooting shoots into turning into that opulent, abundant apple tree. That same divine intelligence is in all, right where every single one of us is. That intelligence is. We are that intelligence. We would not be if it was not for that intelligence. Just like the wave cannot be without the ocean, and the sunbeam cannot be without the sun, so we cannot be without that intelligence. So that intelligence is who and what we are. It is the one intelligence, the one mind, the one presence that makes sure that our hearts beat, that makes sure that our lungs breathe, that makes sure that our bodies heal when they are cut or bruised or whatever, that makes sure that the cells regenerate, that makes sure that waste is being released from the body, that makes sure all of these things, the divine intelligence, God, Spirit, the universe, is the source of it all. The source of it all. So we never need to figure anything out. Yes, I know. I know that the intellect will argue. And I know that the ego will argue, trying to get us to believe that we have to know. I'm saying we don't. I'm saying we don't. Oftentimes, I would say always, when we try to figure anything out, we're just getting in the way. We're just obscuring that which seeks to happen from happening simply because we believe that we know best. How can we possibly, with our finite human intellect, and I'm not saying that we're only human, but as we're having this human form in our humanness, how can we possibly know what is best? How can we possibly know what course of action we need to take for the highest possibility to emerge, to be called forth? How can we possibly? We can't even navigate from point A to point B without a map, or unless we have unless we're very familiar with the route between point A and point B. We need a map, or we need a GPS, or we need a smartphone, or whatever. How can we possibly know what needs to happen for something that may come into fruition in a year or two? What needs to happen for that to come into fruition? How can we possibly know? And the answer is so obvious. We don't, and we can't. God will prepare us. God calls us, planting that idea, that vision, that dream within our consciousness. We say yes, we make ourselves willing, open and available, and God will prepare us. God will source, God will fund, God will supply, God will sustain, maintain, God will move, God will lead, God will... I was gonna say something else. There's the third. God will lead, move, and guide. God will guide us. There's a story about an ant. I may have told it, I probably have told it, and it fits so perfectly into this conversation that we're having today, so I'm going to tell it again. So there's an ant. Imagine, actually it begins like this. Imagine walking, and this is my version. I know that there are other versions that are a little bit different, but this is mine. This is the way I get to tell it. So imagine walking on a wooden path. You're walking in the forest, and you come to a point where you see this little ant scurrying across your path. To the left, out in the bushes, there's an anthill, and to the right, also in the bushes, you see this sugar mound. From where you are standing, and if you step back far enough, you can see the sugar mound, or actually the anthill. You can see the ant, you can see the sugar mound all at once. They're all in your field of awareness now, in this moment. Now, to the ant, the sugar mound is the past. To the ant, the sugar, no, excuse me. To the ant hill is the past. To the ant, the sugar mound is the future. And to the ant, wherever the ant is right now, is the present. So for you, it's all now. Or for us, it's all now. For the ant, it's past, present, future, right? So the ant is scurrying along, and it scurries across the wooden path, and it needs to go back into the bushes. And so there are a lot of twigs, and there are a lot of bushes, and there are pine cones, and there are roots, and there are trees that it needs to navigate through. And it gets lost, and it has to go around trees, and it sort of swerves to off point. It needs to retrace its steps or find its way back to the sugar mound. So the ant is sort of scurrying in a zigzagging way, right? But from your perspective, which is much higher, as you're seeing very clearly the ant and the sugar mound, you're seeing it all. If the ant was to stop and turn its attention toward you and ask, could you please guide me? Could you please point the way? Could you lead me to the sugar mound? It'd be very easy for you to see the shortest and the swiftest and the easiest path for the ant to get from wherever it is to the sugar mound. But from the ant, whose perspective is very low relative to yours or to ours, it needs to try to find its way. And that's what us humans do. We try to find our way to navigate when we can, when we absolutely have the ability to lean into the infinite mind, the source of all, the one mind, the one power, the one life, the one consciousness, the one intelligence, and allow it to do the guiding. Allow it to do the guiding. So God will prepare us. God knows what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, how it needs to happen. Whereas we don't. So our job is to say yes. Listen and obey. Those are words that I used to use. Why is to listen and obey? To listen to that inner calling. It doesn't matter how preposterous it may seem, ridiculously big. Someone once talked about having a ridiculous dream for our lives. A crazy dream. It doesn't matter how crazy it seems. If we are catching it, it means that it has been planted within us. And that in turn means that we have what we need to allow it to come through. So we're wise to listen, we're wise to say yes, to obey it, to be willing, and then move. And trust that this infinite mind will guide and lead and move us. God does not call the prepared, but God prepares the called. And it is God who's doing the calling. It is Spirit who's doing the calling. All right, so we could continue this conversation forever. It feels like, but I think the essence has been abundantly laid out, probably more than once. So I'm going to move us into a closing prayer, and then we will be on our way, and we will get to be the beneficial presences that we are, the shining lights that we are, the loving loves that we are, the peaceful pieces that we are, harmonious harmony that we are, the wholesome wholeness that we are, the abundant abundance that we are. We get to be it all. We get to radiate it. We get to radiate it. We get to exude it. We get to allow it to shoot from within the depth of our being into the world. Surround the world, embrace the world in such a beautiful way. Such a beautiful. So I invite us to close our eyes, make ourselves comfortable once again. And how grateful I am. My goodness. How grateful I am for that divine intelligence that put me on this path. That divine intelligence that knew exactly what it was doing when it guided me to the individual that spoke. It was just a sentence that he spoke. One sentence that completely shifted my world around, that completely shifted the direction of my life. I am so grateful for that seemingly serendipitous event that I know now was beautifully designed. I'm so grateful for this loving presence that I choose to call God. Knowing that it is all that is. Knowing that it is always for me, that it is always for itself, that it is always for all of creation, every aspect, every speck of creation. This loving presence is always for it, for all. And I'm grateful for how it expresses itself in us and through each and every single one of us. Being that we all are unique, perfect, holy, complete emanations of it. We all have our unique path. We all have our unique mission. The assignment that is just perfect for the each of us. So I'm grateful for the abundance, for the diversity of spirit. Knowing that every single possibility for each and every single one of us already exists in the infinite mind of God, as we are one, as we're always one. Never separate, always one. Never separate, always unified with this loving presence. So I give thanks for the beautiful unfoldment that is happening. I give thanks for the beautiful demonstration that is happening, for the healing that is happening, for the release and let go that is happening, for the love that is happening. For this I give thanks, and for so much more, knowing that it already is done, even though we as the ants may perceive things to be flowing on a linear scale with past, present, and future in the infinite mind. It's already done. It already is. There is no past in God. There is no present in God. There is no future in God. There is only now. So I release this word knowing that it is now. I'm surrendering to the now. I'm allowing the now. I'm surrendering to the now, and I'm surrendering to the doneness. And I'm allowing the doneness to demonstrate and manifest itself here in this dimension. And it is doing that now. It is happening now. It is happening now in this moment, in every single moment. For this I give thanks. I allow it to be. So it is, so be it, so shall it be. Amen. Ashe Yahu. Shalom, salam, and halom. just called to say one last thing. It just came to me just now. Greater things than these shall ye do. Greater things than these shall ye do. Thank you so much for tuning in, for participating, for contributing. Until we meet again, until the next time, I bless all of our days, and I bless all of our ways. With much love, many blessings. Namaste. You've been listening to an episode of the Path to Freedom podcast with me, Daniel Roquéo. I invite you to like and subscribe to be notified when new episodes are dropped. And in between episodes, you can always find me on Insight Timer, the Aura Health app, and YouTube. Or you can visit my website, danielroqueo.com. Until we meet again, I bless your day, and I bless your way. With much love and many blessings, Namaste.